Welcome back to the Achieve Your Apex podcast. Chad Hyams here, coming to you from my new location. That's right, Florida. If you didn't listen a few episodes ago, I talked to you about the power of environment. Now, we're currently going through a series about that big why, that motivation, knowing what drives you. And I want you to understand the power of environment with that because our environment helps keep us motivated. Is it your kids that you're doing something for? Then do you have a picture of them right there? Right? Is the environment set up that when you walk into it inspires you to want to go work on whatever the project is? Is it set up in a way that inspires your thinking? Do you have those visual stimuli up of what life will look like, of what that new car looks like that you're working towards, to what that dream vacation looks like, whatever it is? Do you have that visual stimulation up? That picture. Think. If you've seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, what was on his wall as a kid? He wasn't the kind of guy that had the girls in the bathing suits on his wall like most typical teenage boys used to have. No, he had other bodybuilders on the wall. He had the visualization that he could become like that he could do that. What is it that you have? Remember that. Check out the last episode where I shared my marathon story of truly knowing if your why is big enough. Check out the episode before where we talked about finding our why and being able to find the values that we have and how it matches. And go back even one more episode for that one on environment. Also, make sure you've subscribed so you get every episode as they keep coming to you because we're going to keep going in this. So I want you to know that we are moving forward now in our why series, right? Knowing what drives you, and that's your why. I put quotes around it. Why? Because I'm not a big fan of the term. You know that. I've explained that to you already. Yet it's a term that most people hear because a lot of gurus and people like that like to use that term of big why, right? Uh, it doesn't have to be that big. It has to be right now. It has to be the now why. Think about that. Okay. So it's one thing to find that why, it's another thing completely to keep the fire burning over the long haul. Have you ever actually built a campfire? If you build this beautiful campfire, light it, get it going, it's going to be great for a while. Everybody's going to enjoy it, roasting their hot dogs, their marshmallows, dancing around, singing, whatever we do around the campfire, telling tales. If you don't keep feeding it, that fire is going to go out. Are you putting the next log on the fire? And when it comes to our why, we have to make sure we keep fueling that fire so it keeps burning for the long haul. Because life likes to test us, right? It likes to put roadblocks up on purpose. So let's talk about in this episode how to stay motivated even when the going gets tough. Because nobody except you can motivate you. Others can inspire you. Only you can motivate yourself truly. Okay. So let's start with the challenge of sustaining motivation over time. Boy, say that 5 times fast. The challenge of sustaining motivation over time, because it gets challenging the longer we've been attempting to hold on to it. Have you ever pushed your foot down on a gas pedal? Right? The car goes really fast, really quickly, red line on the engine. And if you just keep holding it, it doesn't get faster and faster and faster. What ends up happening is it overheats, it blows up, and it stops going altogether. Okay, we have to remember that when you first set a goal, we have enthusiasm, we have excitement, we have determination that says, I will do this, right? And then that starts to fade. That engine starts to overheat, whatever it was. Setbacks get in the way. Something goes wrong. Some circumstance changed in some relationship or something. Any external pressure can completely deter you from the finish line you had in front of you. And I want you to know going into it, life is going to attempt to do as much of that as possible to see if you really mean it. Okay. Maybe you hit a rough patch in your career. Maybe personal responsibilities are saying, no, you've got to deal with this. This is going on in your family or with your kid or something. Okay. These changes and challenges make it hard to stay connected. Think about a marathon, right? I talked about it recently in the episode, and I'm running another one. And maybe you want to take on a challenge like that, and maybe you never do. It's completely okay to say, no, that's not on my list of things I ever want to do. Yet we all can understand the concept of it. You see, a marathon sounds fun to be able to say, I ran 26.2 miles, hold up my hands, get a free t-shirt, get a medal, whatever it's going to be. Get some pictures, right? Get your friends saying, you're awesome, whatever that is. That's not truly the marathon. You're going to run a lot more than 26.2 miles because you got to train. You got to run every week. You got to run multiple times in a week, and you got to build up to it. You can't just jump out of bed one day and say, I'm going to run a marathon and not hurt yourself. So, as the time goes, I'm recording this back in September. I'm not running my marathon till February yet. I've already started the training for it. Days and days of waking up and getting out there before the sun is up so it's not too hot. Days and days where the weather, maybe where you are, I'm in Florida, it never happens where I am. Maybe where you are, it gets cold and you're like, I don't want to go run out there. It's like freezing weather out there right now, right? Maybe it's rainy, maybe it's bad weather. Okay, at the beginning, it's easy to say, I got this, I'm tougher than this. Over time, that chips away at us. And our enthusiasm and our excitement will start to fade. Maybe we start questioning, why am I even doing this? Why does it matter? I don't need to do this, right? I don't have to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. And all of a sudden our goals don't become achieved because that is what is going to happen. And this is where the real test of motivation comes in for you because it's not about getting started. That's important. It's about sustaining drive over time through those easy times, through those challenging times. That's why it's only a big enough why when failing it would bring tears to your eye. Okay. And that's what I'm talking about making those that big for you. Let me give you some tips. Let me give you some ways to help you, some strategies to stay connected to that why. Okay. We want to keep the fire burning. We want to keep throwing logs on the fire. Okay. We need to stay connected. So, one, we have to reflect regularly. If we keep looking forward, we're looking at the gap. And there's a book called The Gap and the Gain. I won't say a great book. There's a book called The Gap and the Gain that says when we look at how far we still have to go, that fills us with depression. When we look back as far as we've already come, that fills us with energy. Yet how rarely do we look back and how often do we look forward? What's the percentage? How big is the front windshield on the car versus how little is the rear view mirror? We're not looking back at how far we've come. We're always looking forward and we're missing the celebration. So one of the most powerful tools to stay motivated is self-reflection and taking a time daily, maybe weekly, where you journal about it. And I don't care. I'm not a big journaler. You're not going to see me preaching about you got to have a journaler. But it might be sitting down just with that cup of coffee in the morning and taking 5 minutes and saying to yourself, how am I doing on this goal? Am I still aligned with my values? Is it still pushing me? Does why I was doing this still matter? And if I'm running into challenges, how can I overcome them? You want to turn those into questions and put them into your journal? Go for it. And then answer those questions. You don't want to do that? Take 5-10 minutes. Sit somewhere in your thinking chair. Sit somewhere with your coffee. Sit somewhere at the end of the week and reflect. How far have I come this week? Take a moment to look at the gain you've achieved. If you are writing about it, it's great because then as you keep going, you can always go way back to the beginning. Think about that. Number 2 way, how about some visual reminders? I already talked about this. Do you have a vision board? Okay, maybe you don't need a whole vision board, but maybe you need some quotes on the wall that inspire you. Maybe you need some image that you see regularly. Maybe your desktop picture on your phone or on your computer itself should be something, that finish line of the marathon or whatever it was that you're shooting towards, a certain number that you're attempting to achieve on the scale or a business widget you're attempting to hit, whatever it is. Do you have visual stimulation that you see every day? Do you open the fridge and have a picture of the skinny you that you have still that you're attempting to get back to? Think about how that can help motivate you every time you see it. Because sometimes you won't pay attention to it, yet your brain will. You might not notice it. Your brain always will. Put it in a place that you'll see regularly. Your office, your bedroom, or as I said, on your phone or computer, depending on what the goal would be, right? You want it to be your health. Where's that picture of your loved ones? I always had a picture of my mother, my daughter, and my wife right by the phone. so that when I said, I don't want to make calls today, I remembered what I was doing it for and the why. And I picked up the phone without any questions. What are those things that visually will help you? And the third way, get an accountability partner. Get a mentor who maybe isn't holding you accountable to it, yet will cheer you along the way. Right? It's always easier when someone's in your corner to pat you on the back, pick you up, tell you how amazing it is what you just did, that you overcame that you accomplished that along the way. Let them help cheer you along. Okay. When you're struggling, they're the people who are going to remind you, yeah, look how far you've already come. They're the ones who are going to show you that gain when all you're looking for is the gap. When I would drive from Atlanta to Florida, when Nita and I were making this move, I was always seeing on the GPS that gap, how much farther it was. And Nita would always say to me, look how far we've come already. Right? We're already 3 hours into this, or we're already this many miles into it. It was awesome to always have that accountability partner or mentor with me. Set a scheduled time. Maybe it's monthly, bi-weekly. Maybe you need a coach and it's part of your coaching plan. And maybe that's a weekly call, whatever that is. Someone who knows your goals can help hold you accountable to those goals and discuss the challenges you're facing along the way. These are things that are going to help you. Look, so as we wrap up chapter 11, where we talked about knowing what drives you and finding that why in there, remember that staying motivated isn't about maintaining the energy burst you got at the beginning. It's about having a why that you're connected to and drives you day in and day out. Reflect on it regularly, keep it in your line of sight, and have people cheering you along. Keep joining me as we keep going through Achieve Your Apex, my best-selling book that you can find on Amazon or at achieveyouраpex.com. Until our next episode, keep climbing.